Hey guys, it's you here. So the other day I was looking through some of my old art and well, anyways, then I thought I make a video on the 10 mistakes every beginner artist makes. And I say every because it's not just myself. I looked around and I saw a lot of other people who do these things too. So I feel like if you can fix these 10 things, then your art will instantly look a lot more professional. A disclaimer though, I'm not saying that I'm like super pro or anything. These are just things that I fixed and helped me improve a lot. Well, yeah. Anyways, so let's get started. I'm gonna open up some of my old drawings so you guys can get a gist of what I'm saying here. Okay, but first one. Number one, blending too much. So shading is probably the most important thing that you can do in an art piece next to lighting, and I'll be talking about both of these in a later point. But anyways, I'm sure when some of you discovered the blending tool, you were ecstatic like me. It's great, it fixes everything, you don't have to think as much, but it also destroys the shading that you've put down and it makes you lazy. When you can't just blend everything together, you stop thinking about what the shade should actually look like or how does the fabric work, and etc. Blending also causes this gradient look, which here it is, which doesn't make it look like you put a lot of effort in. Okay, so number two, stubby lines. So I'm gonna use this example again. A lot of times beginners are not comfortable with lining, so what they end up doing is either one or more of the following, which ruins their line. So they try to draw a continuous line. They don't take advantage of the pen pressure that their tablet has because they're trying so hard to make the lines perfect, or they line it too thickly, which will make the lines stick out and look bad. So lines can make a big difference. They have dynamics to it too. It can't just be like a straight perfect line because unless you're drawing a table or something, nothing looks like that. Some parts also need to be thicker than other. That's what I mean by dynamics. So for example, hair, like they begin thin at the scalp, get thicker, and tapers off again in the end. So if you don't start paying more attention to your lines, then you might never improve. Also, never use the line tool. Like never, ever, ever, okay? This is only for side users, by the way. According to my knowledge, I don't think any of the other programs have it, but anyways, if you've been like relying on it, ditch it like as soon as possible. The reason for this is that when you use the line tool, your line loses the soft edge to it and it also has zero dynamics. So if some of you are like, oh, but I don't have a tablet, and I need to use like the line tool because I can't draw with the mouse or whatever, well, I'll be addressing that issue in a later point too. So on to point number three, trying to draw everything from your head. I know a lot of time when you watch other pro artists draw, they seem to like know how to do everything. Well, the reason they can portray everything so realistically is because they have practiced hundreds of times before with a reference. Like I guarantee you that. Sadly, I only realized this recently myself. Like I used to try to draw everything like from my head too, and I can't tell you how big of a difference it has already made in my anatomy and shading just by using references. You need to remember that those people who can draw things from their heads are pros, and most of us are not there yet. So don't be impatient like me. I think you can do everything yourself. The simplest way of finding a reference is to just take a picture of yourself. So like turn on your selfie camera, set a timer, and put yourself into that position that you want to draw, and voila. You can also use a friend to help you if it's not a reference that you can do yourself. If you don't have a timer on your phone camera, go download an app. There's like a ton out there. Yeah, but on the topic of references, number 4 is copying a bad reference. Now, using references is good, but only if you use it the right way. I'm sure most of you have like a favorite artist out there somewhere who's your inspiration. You love their works, you want to draw like them, etc. I, for one, try to replicate these drawings from this one artist I used to adore in the beginning. But what I realize now is you can't rely on another artist's drawing as a reference, especially for anatomy, because no one's art is perfect. And most of the time, their styles will be different from yours, and it just won't work out. Photographs are the best for references because the thing is, most of these artists you're looking up to draw their interpretation of reality, And if you just copy them, then what you're doing is you're doing an interpretation of their interpretation of reality. Like, does that make sense? But anyways, like, yeah, it's good to have an inspiration. I actually highly suggest you study them and how they draw, but don't use them as a reference. Use photographs. Okay, so number 5, only adding shade but not light. This is important and ties in with the next point, so I'm not going to spend that much time talking about it. Yeah, so here you can see I've added very minimal shading, obviously blended it way too much, but why does it look bad? Because there's no light. And by lighting, you can't just like add a white glow from the side like this. That's cheating. You need to actually do it on the coloring. I'll show you the comparison in the next point, which is not enough shade. Number 6. Yeah, for this point, I'll just show you guys an example. Okay, so here we have the first time I drew Lucy from Fairy Tale in 2011. And here we have Lucy again in 2014 with Natsu and Happy. So let's focus on differences in the shading and how it impacted the drawing. So in the 2011 Lucy, I kind of just randomly scribbled color on her hair. And I only added shadow around her neck and boobs. But you see, in the 2014 Lucy, I didn't just have like 2 different colors of shade on her hair. There's more dynamics and there's more lighting too. And her clothes isn't just like a piece of white cloth with gray on it anymore. I added gradients in different shades of gray. So anyways, my point is, don't just shade the part where it will obviously be darker and be like, okay, I'm done. You need to actually think about it more and often have more than one color of shade. Because I see most people just do like a base color and they add like a darker color on it and call it a day. Yeah, don't do that. Anyways, yeah, so that, and don't forget the lighting. Okay, on to number 7, relying on effects layers too much. There was a time where I like completely rely on those effects layer. So I'll have like a base color layer and then just add a shading on multiply layer on top, and then like a lighting on another layer set to luminosity. Yeah, please don't ever do that. I know it's a cheap and easy way out, but it's really important to think about the light and shades yourself, or you'll never improve. These effects layers should only be used for finishing touches, not the entire picture. I still use it a lot, so I'm kind of a hypocrite for saying this, but the thing is, when you're a beginner, there's so many things that can go wrong with using these effects layers. So I suggest you to experiment, but don't rely on it. Okay, number 8. Ooh, this is a long video. Being afraid of trying new things. This is gonna be really hard for most people, because like, how can you draw something that you don't know how to draw, you know? Well, you see, the thing is that once you start trying, you start learning. So if you don't know how to draw something, just find a reference on Google Images and just try. Like, here, I'll show you an example. For Sona, yeah, here it is. Have I drawn a zither before? No. Did I know how to draw a freaking zither? God, no. I'm pretty sure like most of you don't. But because Sona's character needed it, I found a few references and voila, now I know how to draw a zither. It's really that simple. Like, what's the worst that can happen? As long as you have a reliable reference, you can only gain, not lose from trying new things. Okay, number 9. Having no backgrounds. Okay, so backgrounds is one of those things that I know people are absolutely terrified of. I was too. And it's really one of those things that you can't be afraid to try. Like, for example, this was my first real background I ever drew, and holy shit, I've spent so much time on it, it's not even funny. But just after this one time, I stopped being afraid of doing backgrounds. I would suggest you to just try and do the backgrounds that really challenges you. Like, trust me, after you're done, you'll feel so proud of yourself, and that fear will just go away. Backgrounds don't always have to be complicated either. Like here in these recent works, I really just added like some flowers. Like, it doesn't need to be anything amazing. Like, sometimes simplicity is best. But do always try to challenge yourself with backgrounds, and eventually you'll get comfortable enough and good at it. Okay, so the last point is get a tablet. Okay, so just first, let me correct myself by saying that this is not a mistake, but I do think that it's very important, so I decided to include this point. I get a lot of comments here on YouTube that says like, oh, I don't have a tablet, or oh, I draw with the mouse. So first off, I'm going to say that both of those are perfectly valid methods of drawing. You can really do whatever you want, and that's the beauty of art. I've seen tons of traditional artists that are like 100 times better than digital artists. It's also better to start off on paper, because if you start with digital, it might actually be hard to go traditional, whereas it's easier vice versa. Anyways, the thing is, I've only seen a few handfuls of mouse artists that are better than most digital and traditional artists. In fact, one of my idols when I began was a mouse user. But the thing is that with a mouse, you can only go so far, and the important thing that a tablet offers is the pen pressure. It's crucial, and it helps create dynamics in your lines and your coloring. So if you don't have a tablet and you want to go digital, I really highly suggest you get yourself a tablet. It doesn't need to be like super expensive or high class. My first tablet was like legitimately the very first model that Wacom, which is the to-go tablet company, came out with. And it took me all the way from this picture to like this. Yeah, I think that was the last drawing I did with it. But anyways, the cheapest official ones you can buy are like $50. But if you go on eBay or something, you can get them for as cheap as $10 if you're lucky. One of my friends got one online for $20 including shipping, and it works just as well. So that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. I really hope this helped. Please give us a thumbs up if you liked it, and remember to subscribe for more speed paints and tutorials in the future. Bye.